Estate for years, leasehold estate for a specific term. An estate is the ownership interest or claim that a person has in real property. The two types of estates are freehold estate and less than freehold estate. There are two types of freehold estates, estates in fee and life estates. Life estates depend on the length of the life of a specific person. Estates in fee include fee simple absolute and fee simple qualified. Fee simple absolute is the most complete form of estate or complete form of ownership or complete form of interest or claim a person can have in a real property. A less than freehold estate is the estate held by a tenant who leases (rents) a property, also known as a leasehold estate. There are several types of leasehold estates, one of them being the estate for years. An estate for years is an estate for a specific period of time. An estate for years is very similar to an estate from period to period, but an estate from period to period requires 30 days notice to quit. An estate for years is typical of commercial leases and does not renew automatically. An estate from period to period is typical for residential leases. Related words: estate from period to period. Desk cost. Break-even expense of sales positions in a brokerage. The company dollar is the amount the broker gets after all commissions are paid to the associate licensees. The operational expenses of the broker are paid out of the company dollar. Operational expenses do not include the broker's profit. The desk cost is the operational expenses divided by the number of associate licensees and is the break-even expense of the sales positions in a brokerage. Any salesperson who does sell beyond that number is pulling the overall average down. Any salesperson who doesn't sell beyond that number is pulling the overall average down. An average, by definition, will always have data points below it. Some brokerages make their associate salespeople pay their own desk cost. The name desk cost comes from each salesperson having their own desk from which to work to transact sales. The desk cost is the break-even expense of sales positions in a brokerage. Related words: brokerage, company dollar. All-Inclusive Trust Deed, AITD. New overall deed of trust including all subordinate loans. An all-inclusive trust deed, AITD, is a new loan which is subordinate in priority to any original loans but pays all payments of existing loans, also called a wraparound loan. The AITD has possibilities for creative financing for real estate. The reason is because if a seller has a property and has a first trust deed and a second trust deed, the seller could self-finance by allowing the buyer to have an AITD which covers both of the original loan payments and maybe a little profit too. So the buyer pays the seller the AITD payment, and the seller pays the first trust deed and the second trust deed and keeps the extra profit. The result is the seller sells the house at the price he wants and the buyer gets to buy the home, possibly without even qualifying for financing. If anything goes wrong, the seller just takes the property back. An all-inclusive trust deed is a new overall deed of trust that covers all existing loans on a property but is still subordinate to those loans. Synonyms: wraparound loan. Abstract of title. Brief written summary of documents found in title search. An abstract is a brief written summary of legal documents. An abstract of title is a brief written summary of the documents found in a title search. Abstracts of title are not used so much anymore. Now, title insurance is used to make sure a title is transferable. Related words: title insurance, chain of title. Energy Efficiency Ratio, EER, ratio of output cooling to input of electrical use. The energy efficiency ratio, EER, is the ratio of output cooling to input electrical power use for a single and specific air conditioning unit. The EER is based on warmer climate conditions and uses as its test an outside temperature of 95 degrees Fahrenheit. The Seasonal Energy Efficiency Ratio, SEER, S-E-E-R, is basically the same thing, only the test for SEER uses a range of outside temperatures, making it more geared toward areas with a wider range of climate conditions. Both ratios are measures of cooling efficiency of air conditioning units, with the goal being better use of energy to achieve cool living conditions in hot weather. The Energy Star label is a separate rating system. Related words: Seasonal Energy Efficiency Ratio, SEER, British Thermal Unit, BTU, Coefficient of Performance, COP. Exclusive agency listing. Commission paid only if broker is procuring cause. A listing is an agreement with a broker agent to sell real property. There are different types of listings: exclusive authorization / right to sell listing, exclusive agency listing, open listing, net listing, and option listing. Listing agreements must have an end date. The exclusive authorization / right to sell listing requires the owner to pay a commission to the broker / agent regardless of who is the procuring cause of the sale. An exclusive agency listing is a listing agreement where a commission is paid only if a broker / agent is the procuring cause. No commission is due if the owner sells the property himself without the agent. In a net listing, there is no commission per se, but the broker / agent agrees that the seller will get a fixed amount for a property and has permission to sell the property for whatever he can get. The difference is his to keep. An option listing is a right of the broker agent to buy the property personally, to keep it, or resell it. An open listing gives any number of brokers / agents the right to sell the property. Basically, whoever sells it, parentheses, is the procuring cause, end parentheses, gets the commission. Remember that the procuring cause is the one who brings a ready, willing, and able buyer, and basically means the broker / agent who writes up the winning purchase contract. Related words: procuring cause. Deed of trust. Loan to buy property, parentheses, voluntary lien, end parentheses, trustee holds title. A trust deed or deed of trust, they are the same thing, is a voluntary lien on a property that is used to hypothecate a property. Hypothecate means the property is collateral for the loan, but the borrower gets to live in the home. The lender does not hold it for security. A trust deed involves three parties: the lender, also called the beneficiary, the borrower, and the trustee, who is a neutral third party. The trust deed conveys bare legal title to the trustee and equitable title to the borrower. Equitable title allows the owner to use the property normally. In the event of default, the trustee forecloses on the property. Parentheses, a trust deed allows a quicker trustee foreclosure instead of a judicial foreclosure, which is required by a mortgage, end parentheses. When the loan is paid, the trustee conveys bare legal title to the borrower through a reconveyance deed. Note that a trust deed is the same thing as a deed of trust. Be careful not to confuse a trust deed with a grant deed. A grant deed is a conveyance with warranties. A trust deed is a voluntary lien, parentheses, loan to buy the property, end parentheses, by giving bare legal title to an unbiased third party, the trustee. Synonyms: trust deed. Related words: trustee, bare legal title, naked title, voluntary lien. Chattel, personal property. Chattel is another name for personal property. Chattel is apparently from the word cattle, which is a form of personal property. Parentheses, cows are not attached to land, end parentheses. Personal property is property not attached to land. Chattel is personal property which is sold with a bill of sale as opposed to real property which is attached to land and is sold with a deed. Chattel is another name for personal property. Synonyms: personal property. Antonyms: real property. Chattels real. Personal property related to real property, a lease. Chattels is another word for personal property and apparently comes from the word, quote, cattle, end quote, which is a form of personal property. Remember that personal property is any property that is not real property, and real property is anything attached to land, parentheses, more specifically, land, anything attached to land, anything appurtenant to land, or anything immovable by law, end parentheses. When the word chattels is combined with the word real, we are now talking about personal property which is related to real property, like a lease, deed, or mortgage. California Fair Employment and Housing Act, Rumford Act. Discrimination in housing is against the law. The California Fair Employment and Housing Act of 1974, also formerly known as the Rumford Act, prohibits discrimination in housing. Specifically, discrimination in rental, sales, and financing aspects of real estate is prohibited by the Rumford Act. Related words: Fair Housing Act.